Fought last night as well. First fight. Looked sharp, man, last night. He fought against opposition that he was supposed to cook. And, he cooked this man and definitely, did his due diligence last night for sure. I could say for sure. And yeah, man, personally, for real, um, I want to see, a couple step up. I need to see some step up for Zaquan Moses. I got to say that. I need to see a step up in competition a little bit, even though I know he's a prospect, what I'm saying, of course. But these guys that they put him in there with, these guys like have no chance at all beating him. Like no chance. No chance at all. And definitely he was staying in the pocket in the fire and everything because he didn't his op didn't have any power for him to respect, I mean, and he was standing on business in there for sure. So salute to Zaquan Moses on getting him another win in his professional career last night. Now gotta talk about this, man, for sure. Now if it crazy part, I seen some last night, what I'm saying, people was talking to Kermel Moulton last night and they like um, they talked to Kermel Moulton about him fighting Zaquan Moses because Zaquan Moses and Kermel Moulton, they fought each other in the amateurs. I mean, and apparently Zaquan Moses beat him a couple times in the amateurs. So they got like a little rivalry from the amateurs, and now both of them prospects in the pros right now currently. And Kermel Moulton, man, he said when I catch him, it's belt to ass. And then Zaquan Moses, he responds, he said, when the time right, we gonna get it in. You know what I mean? And I found that very interesting, man. Of course, like I said, both of these guys, both two upcoming prospects in the game, definitely the future of boxing for the next generation of guys. And they got a storyline for them fighting in the amateurs. Me personally, just looking at both of them, how they match up right now fighting, for as their styles in the pros. I got Carmel Moulton winning that. You know what I'm saying? If they run that soon, but it'll be an interesting fight for real, man. Because I just seen Camille actually fight, a little bit more tougher competition compared to Zaquan Moses starting off right now. You know what I mean? Which is, of course, in the boxing game, you're gonna get these guys that's going to, they're gonna fight, you know, green. No, they're gonna fight guys that are green starting off in their career, you know what I'm saying? Of course, you know what I mean? And that's the case right now for Zaquan Moses and Camille Moulton, if you want to add that, even though Camille Moulton had a couple tough fights, with the guy Anthony Cuba, what's his name? I can't think of his name. Santa Cruz, his fighter, Anthony Cuba, that was a great fight between them two. You know what I mean? So I felt like right now Camille definitely on a better trajectory than Zaquan Moses, but we shall see, man. And I'm definitely curious to see, where these guys go at for real, and how they come up for sure. And I will say one thing, Camille Moulton, he announced this week that the weight class that he's going to campaign at is going to be 135 pounds. So he's going to campaign at lightweight. That's going to be the official weight that Camille Moulton campaigns at. And definitely interested to see what the young phenom, got in the game coming up, man, for sure, man. And we can get to the next fight, man, on the card. Heavyweight, Terramona, Terramona, one of Eddie Hearn's new projects out there right now, man. He fought this guy Whitfield last night, man, and stopped him in the first round, man. Had him bent up in the corner and everything, taking off on him last night, man. It was nasty work, man. Like, yeah, Terramona 8-0, 8 knockouts. Apparently, he just had a fight last week in Australia. Then they flew him out this week to fight. You know what I mean? Last night. So that's kind of crazy recovery off of a fight. I definitely got to say that for sure. But Whitfield was just unmatched for him. And Terramona, he looked like one of those guys that's real happy outside of the ring and stuff, got a real happy personality and demeanor and everything. But then he get in that ring, that boy, he in there punching with mean intentions, you know what I mean? So Terramona is definitely a guy to, look out in that heavyweight division, man. That heavyweight division is starting, it don't have the depth that it did back in the day, But we got some young fighters out there that's building and trying to put some work in over there. You feel me? So Terry Mona's one of those guys, and from what Eddie Hearn watching him after the game. Sports Predictions 101. Salute, my brother, man. What's good, bro? So watching Eddie Hearn, what I'm saying, last night after the fight, he mentioned about Terry Mona, and he was basically saying that, Terry Mona is a guy that they're very serious about, and they're definitely going to invest in him. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna put, heavy money into investing in him. And they're definitely going to try to keep him active and stuff, and try to make sure they can put him into championship contention by next year. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully end of next year or early 2027. So that's what they're looking at for Terra Mona. And Terra Mona, just looking at this guy, man, big guy. You know what I'm saying? I heard that the guy was fighting at 168, then they done bloomed him up and bulked him up bulked him up to heavyweight. So, and he looks like a pure heavyweight to me right now with the size, very tall, strong and powerful, you know what I mean? So I'm interested to see what the guy Terramona has, man, for sure. Definitely, man. I will definitely say that for sure. And moving on to the third fight, man, which was the co-main event. Co-main event. Andy Cruz, man, last night fighting the Japanese cat Mishiro last night, man. And just starting off with this fight, I was just talking on my brother Bean on Ringwalk Boxing Podcast, man. We was talking about these fights, and just being 100% honest. All of the fights last night was real live showcase fights, like all showcase fights for real. You feel me? So like, I mean, it wasn't nothing crazy. Like it wasn't no 50-50 fights last night at all. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you right now, Kambosos and Hitchins definitely wasn't no 50-50 fight going into the fight for sure. You know what I'm saying? And in the case for us, Andy Cruz versus Mashiro, definitely a mismatch fight. Andy Cruz, he looked sharp out there. You know what I'm saying? He was sticking with that jab, setting other traps and picking apart with different, multiple combinations and stuff in the fight last night. Defense was pretty decent to me. You know what I'm saying? Andy Cruz, I don't be, I don't be crazy fanned out like some of the other fans where they'll see a fighter get touched up once or twice and they be like, oh, he be getting touched up. Like, bro, that don't be the case. It's boxing. They're going to get touched, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these boxing fans be, acting too crazy for real when it come up to, they saying a fighter got touched up. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm going to get to that as far as the next fight because I heard some bullshit from Bill Haney on particular pertaining to that. But in particular, as far as Andy Cruz, man, Andy Cruz looked sharp out there. The guy Mashiro was tall, but he was stiff out there. He had no athleticism. He didn't have no power that Andy Cruz respected at all. After a while, you got Andy Cruz walking him down, picking through his shots, blocking his shots, coming forward last night. You know what I mean? And Andy Cruz fought a great fight, man. Definitely did some great body work as well last night, breaking them down. And me personally, I don't think Andy Cruz has power like to stop a lot of guys. You feel me? Like I don't think he do. But in the same sense, like he got like those accumulative punches. You know what I'm saying? That adds up that to where he is stopping guys, similar to like David Benavidez in the similar case. Even though I believe David Benavidez has some power, way more power than a guy like Andy Cruz. But Andy Cruz, definitely, superb boxer last night. As far as the fight with Mashiro, Bozienis had him on point. And that's the one dangerous part I will say about Andy Cruz is the fact that he is getting, that work in with Bozy Ennis and Boost Ennis over there with that camp in Philly and everything. But me personally, once it comes up to like that next level competition for Andy Cruz, that's where it get interesting. You know what I mean? Because how is his style going to translate against a guy like Raymond Muratalla, in which, last night with Andy Cruz winning, that made him the IBF mandatory because that was the IBF eliminator fight last night. So we got Andy Cruz possibly in range to fight Raymond Muratalla for that IBF title, but we're waiting for the IBF to order that. They got to make that order first. You feel me? And one thing I will say about it, Quee was good, sis, was good. One thing I will say about the mandatory for us Andy Cruz and Eddie Cruz and Raymond Muratalla, like that fight in particular, I believe it's a 50-50 fight for real. Like anybody can win that fight. You know what I mean? And I like both guys. Now, is that a strong fight to be like a main event fight somewhere? That's to be questioned for real. And I'm hearing that Top Rank, they possibly in a position where they may try to get a voluntary fight for Muratalla first before they end up taking on um a mandatory fight with Andy Cruz first. You know what I mean? So that may be the play. But for us, that fight in particular with Cruz and Muratalla, like, of course, Muratalla will be the A side in that fight because he has the title. Now, it's not a big money fight, maybe they land on a bigger name, undercard as a co-main or just on the undercard in general, or they can set up a situation where they stack a card in California where, Muratala close where he's from, and they build around that and, they try to set up a card like that in general, you know what I mean? So definitely interesting to see, what's going on with the Muratala, Cruz mandatory fight possibly. And of course, you already know, y'all stay tapped into the channel, man. We gonna stay updated and keep everybody updated with all the news, cause we definitely, you know what I'm saying. We got some sources. We be knowing what's going on over here. You know what I'm saying. We sourced up over here a little bit. You know what I mean. So we working. So yeah, for sure. Let me read some comments real quick. Uh, my boy for sports prediction. He said, I was tied up watching UFC Wars last night. I'm going to watch the fights you talk about today. Facts, facts. Yeah, man. Yeah, it'd be tough on some nights where boxing and UFC is on at the same time. Some people choose either or. And, that card last night in particular wasn't nothing crazy for, everybody to stop what they doing. You know what I'm saying? I understand 100% for sure, bro. Uh, he said, I got to see. He said, I got to see what kind of work Andy put in. I want to see how Hitchins beat Kambosos for sure. Yeah, and we're gonna talk about that in a minute too, cuz for sure. Um Quick, yeah, that's a good team to train with. I agree. Yeah, most definitely, man. Andy Cruz over there with Bozy and Boots, you know what I'm saying? He getting work in, sparring with Boots and everything. Like that's good. And of course, all the other Philly fighters that they have over there, you know what I'm saying? He's getting some good work in over there. So that's definitely a good thing for him for sure. Building his career, moving up for sure, sis, for sure. Definitely got to say that. And let's go ahead and get to the main event, man. Main event fight last night, man. Richardson Hitchins versus George Kambosos Jr., man. Hey, it went as I expected. The only difference was I didn't expect Africa to stop him. That's just me. I ain't see him stopping him because I don't believe Africa got power like that. That's just my personal opinion. But at the same time, Africa got the job done. He looked amazing last night, you know what I'm saying? And I will say this, of course, everybody knows if you know me, I'm not a big George Kambosos fan, honestly. But I got respect for George Kambosos, you know what I mean? For him, going out there, laying it out there all on the line for sure. But no, I've been the guy that been on record and saying like Kambosos ain't like that. He ain't like that for real, man. I've been trying to say that. And the crazy part, going into this fight the whole week, bro, the whole week, we had the Haney fans out there. They was praising Devin Haney beating Kambosos the whole entire week, bro. Like the whole entire week. They on all different channels and panels and chats and all of this shit. They like, hey man, daggone Devin Haney and Kambosos. That was a good win for Kambosos is a good fighter for real. He beat Teofimo Lopez. You know what I'm saying? Teofimo Lopez, he was lineal, you know what I'm saying, etc. Woo, woo, woo. Like, bro. No, don't give a fuck about that, bro. He got Kambosos is a pure one-hit wonder, man. Pure one-hit wonder. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And it showed last night. Richardson Hitchens' jab was sick last night, coming over with the overright, setting up other different combinations. Defense was tight. And let's talk about it with Bill Haney, what he said real quick. Look, while we talking about the fight in general, you feel me? This man Hey, Jag Queen Boxing Salute says, hey, everybody subscribe to Jag Queen Boxing, Ring Walk Boxing Podcast, Sports Prediction 101, and Quee, man. Support my family, man. They all putting in crazy work on the content, man. Salute to them, man, for sure. And and hey, and I didn't mention this too. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers too. I forgot to mention that. You know what I'm saying? This is Father's Day, and I did say earlier, like I understand we may have not a crazy live, but we still gonna cook up and people catching on playback. It is what it is. Ain't no problem, man. We still gonna cook up and have fun with it today for sure. But yeah, let's get to what Bill Haney said. You know what I'm saying? While we talking about the Hitchins versus Kambosos fight, Bill Haney was a guy that was saying that, hey, they're gonna this man, Africa can't beat Devin. He was getting touched up a lot tonight versus Kambosos. I'm like, dude, where? Kambosos only landed 34 total punches, bro. Like, come on, bro. Come on. That's the delusional shit that I be talking about, bro. Like, and the Haney fans be getting poisoned and polluted by the whole propaganda and bullshit by Bill Haney, man. Like, and this is another case of that. Like, this is pure delusion saying that this man Africa was getting touched up crazy last night when this man George Kambosos Jr. only landed 34 punches last night. Like, are you shitting me? Like, come on, like, make this make sense. Like, Richards and Hitchins was doing everything that your son wasn't doing last night. He was in the pocket beautifully cooking, bro. Cooking. Cooking Kambosos. Like, jab totally on point last night, man. And salute to Richards and Hitchins, man. Great game plan. Came out on point. You know what I'm saying? And me personally, like I said before, I'm not a big fan of Kambosos. I don't think he's fired. I don't think he fired for real. That's just me. You feel me? Like, I don't think he fired. Some of y'all may think he fired. Me personally, I don't think he fired. I don't think he was ever fired. I felt like with the fight, Teach salute, my brother, salute, man. Yeah, I felt like Kambosos was a guy that he happened to have that one night versus Teofimo Lopez and got lucky and beat him, which is like I posed this question a little while back. Robert's like, hey, if if Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos fought 10 times, how much do you think Teofimo Lopez would beat George Kambosos out of 10 fights that they fought 10 times, along with that one time that Kambosos won? You know what I'm saying? And I'm just saying in general, I believe cold-heartedly that T.O. would beat this man 9 out of 10 fights if they fought. I just think just that one night he just got him. You know what I'm saying? He just got him that one night. And Kambosos, man, I you know what I'm saying, like him as a true fighter, true warrior in there for sure. But his skills, he don't have skills. He's not good. He was keeping his head on the line all night last night, getting clipped by Richard and Hitchens. Richard and Hitchens was just having his way like Burger King last night, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was nasty work for real. Like, it was crazy seeing Hitchens pick him apart and break him down like that for real. I was like, damn, Africa all the way on point. This probably the best fight I done seen from him for real. The best performance I've seen from him. And I gotta tell y'all, that's why I be saying, y'all, performances matter. Win, lose, or draw. Your performance matters. Crucial content. Salute, my brother. Salute. Your performances, whether you win, lose, or draw, matters. You want to go out there and look good regardless to who you fighting, regardless to if you lose the fight or whatsoever. You want to go out there and put on a great performance and definitely showcase to the fans that you got some talent and you one of those guys to be reckoned with, whether you win, lose, or draw. And we need to really encourage the fighters. Yo, entertain us, man. Make this entertainment. We ain't saying that y'all gotta be out here, running around and not engaged. We ain't saying that at all. Like, we just saying, like, have some fun out there, man, and and make it entertaining for us. You know what I mean? We like the sweet signs. We like hit and don't get hit. But at the same time, make it, entertaining for us for sure. You know what I mean? And we gonna rock with you whether you win, lose, or draw. You know what I'm saying? That's how it should be. You know what I'm saying? If you're a fan of a certain fighter, you should rock with that fighter whether he win, lose, or draw. You know what I mean? That's just how it should be as us fans in boxing for sure, man. And back to Richards and Hitchins though, man. Richards and Hitchins looked sharp last night. Kambosos, um, just no, just not. He didn't have it. He didn't have it, man. And interesting. We can talk about Crush the Legend. Was good, bro. Was good. So I'm gonna go through some comments real quick. Let me do that. Let me do that. T said 9 out of 10 for sure. I got T.O. beating him 9 out of 10 for sure. You know what I mean? Quick said he trashed my opinion. Facts. Cambosos, I think he's ass. I always felt that way. That's just my personal opinion. Cruiser content. He said, T said, it looks like Kambosos hasn't had quality sparring partners or he just didn't have any. Yeah, for sure. I don't like far as I don't know where he had his camp at. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if he has his camp in Australia where he's getting good work out there. I don't know. Because I can imagine that the work out there in Australia compared to being out here in the States for a camp probably isn't as strong as it is out there in Australia. You know what I mean? For sure. Yeah, man. Coach of Content, happy Father's Day. You if you got kids, for sure, for sure. Yeah, T, she said that's why all these boxers overseas are training in America. Absolutely. Lomachenko had a house out there in LA, training out here the whole time, you feel me? Because all the great work is out this way. All the great work. Crush the Legend. Crush the Legend said he never had it. For sure. For sure, bro. That's what I think, bro. I don't think that Gon Cambosos never was like that, bro. Like I always tell people, just cause you beat somebody and you become champion, don't make you an elite fighter. You know what I mean? Like that be a conversation that we have often in boxing, like where we talking like shit. Yeah, he beat Teofimo Lopez, but then we see him lose the 24 rounds to Devin Haney. Then after that, he fights Maxie Hughes in a fight that they clearly gave him the win when, a lot of people felt Maxie Hughes clearly won that fight as well. And they only had that happen due to the fact that they was trying to set Kambosos to fight Lomachenko finally, in which they ended up doing that. And then we seen what happened with Lomachenko last year, where he cooked him in 11 rounds in Australia last year. And now last night, got Africa last night, stopping George Kambosos in 8 last night. In 8. He stopped that man at 8 last night, man. That shit real life surprised me. He put in work like that for sure. You know what I mean? And yes, sis, this is what I was saying in a lot of chats I've been in too. George Kambosos he has always been a front runner. Let's get it understood. He's always been a front runner for one. Then for two, he's a bona fide gatekeeper right now currently. Bona fide gatekeeper. And that's just the fact of the matter, man. Like, we ain't about to see George Campos like next. They gonna be setting him up with a young prospect or a guy that they got coming up and try to have him pad had them pad they they wins on their record with George Campos' name. That's where he at. That's where he at right now. Just the fact of the matter, man. You know what I mean? And George Kambosos, you got to salute him for real in that sense, for real, because George Kambosos, he knows he's in that position and he's accepting these fights and stuff. You feel me? Like he understands the situation that he's in. He know he isn't as talented as some of these other fighters at 140 now because he's fighting at 140. We can say, you know what I mean? So he understands his position that he's a gatekeeper and he's there to collect some checks and get his ass whooped. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta respect it though. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's why I said I gotta salute him because I know he understands his place in boxing right now. And you know what I'm saying, for him to understand it and still be going out there, trying to, handle business out here and he getting his ass whooped, it is what it is, man. You gotta respect it for sure. You know what I mean? Crush the Legend said, I call it around in a way to stop him to the damn body. Facts, man. Facts, man. A lot of these fighters don't be going to the body crush. I've been watching a lot of boxing recently, man, the last few weeks for real. And you look at a lot of these fights, and that's one thing Kambosos, yeah, he tried to go to the body when like later into the fight, but he never tried to go to the body early in the fight at all and try to establish anything. You know what I mean? Like he didn't try to establish anything last night for the body work to try to set up to go up top in different combinations and setting different traps. You know what I'm saying? And we got it from Africa. Africa was on point last night. He was smoking last night for sure. And I want to talk about this too, man, because of course, after the fight, Africa, they talked to Africa post fight interview and everything, and he said that that he mentioned that he's a free agent. One key thing, and we're gonna talk about the free agency part. And that's the main part I want to talk about this. He mentioned that he was a free agent last night, after that fight last night. And he as well said that he called out Devin Haney last night, called him a pussy, him and Bill Haney talking about fuck the Haneys, fuck Devin and Bill, they pussies and everything. We go ahead and say it. And of course, he was with Teofimo came in the ring and they talked about fighting and they was like, we can set the fight up, even though a curious thing that Richards didn't mention is that we both we both work with the same team. So the fight can get made, which is when he said that, what he means is Keith Connolly, Richards and Hitchins' new manager, same manager of Teofimo Lopez. He said they both got the same manager. We got the same team. We can make the fight happen. But me personally, I don't believe they trying to make that fight happen like right at this moment. I think they're trying to build it in a sense. So I think they're trying to fit them with different ops currently myself. So I think that's a little bit of the reason why I feel like Africa's pushing more for the Devin fight, because Devin, he feel like he can beat Devin. Like Africa really believe he can beat Devin. You know what I'm saying? And I seen one of my boys on Facebook early. He was like, man, Africa, man, he way over his head calling out Devin, man. Devin to beat him. I'm like, no, 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 no. That ain't an easy fight for Devin. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I would probably maybe edge Devin with experience in a sense. But judging off of their last performances, I don't know what we're gonna get out of Devin fighting in Africa. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And Africa last night, his last performance, he looked amazing last night. He looked sharp. You know what I mean? He was in the pocket. He wasn't, he wasn't doing too much lateral movement. You know what I'm saying? He was still doing the sweet science, and he was in the pocket. And that was some amazing shit to watch from Africa last night. We didn't get that from Devin. You know what I'm saying? We got Devin around this bitch like a boxing trash star against Jose Ramirez. So I don't know how Devin would look fighting Africa 100%, to be honest. Is it going to be the PTSD Devin that we saw in the last fight, or are we going to see Devin back in rare form how he was versus Reese's Prograde? Like, that's the form that I expected to see him against Ramirez, and we didn't see that. So that's where I'm at with it for real. I'm like, me personally, I'm not a fan of Devin fighting Africa, honestly. It's not a fight that I personally want to see myself, honestly. I mean, and everybody should know by now who I want Devin to fight. Everybody know I want Devin to fight Ryan Garcia, and that's the only fight that the Haney fans should be pushing. But for some odd reason, they straying more away from that fight more and more each day. More and more each day, and I'm noticing that shit. But we gonna stay on their ass about that fight, because Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney is the fight that needs to be made. The rematch needs to happen. Simple as that. Dragon was good, my brother. Was good, was good. Yeah, hold on. Let me hop on here. Let me get my boy together. Yeah, man. So me personally, I don't care for Devin fighting Africa personally. That's not a fight that I'm personally looking forward to seeing, in my opinion. But if it happens, it happens. I'm cool with it. I'm absolutely cool with it. I ain't gonna complain about it. You feel me? But I will tell you what I do know though. I want to talk about this situation with Richards and Hitchins as far as his free agency, because it was very interesting to me. Last night, Eddie Hearn did an interview last night where he was talking about Richards and Hitchins heading into free agency. Because, like I said earlier, Richards and Hitchins, he mentioned his free agency last night while they were while the post fight press conference last night. And let me read what he said because I had this in this thing. I'm gonna just read partial of what he said and then summarize and paraphrase it. So Eddie Hearn, he says, I feel disrespected because it's not Africa, it's just the dogs around him. I've headlined him in Orlando, Vegas, where we lost a lot of money. Richardson is a good kid. He just got some snakes around him. So who y'all thinking he talking about? You remember I just mentioned that Richards and Hitchens, he has a new manager, and it's Keith Connolly. And the crazy part in that particular interview with Eddie Hearn, you can go on, I think it's on IFL TV, I believe, one of those UK channels. And he Richards and Hitchens, one thing that Eddie mentioned, he was like, well, you know that Keith Connolly went right when they got on the microphone after the fight and stuff. He said Keith Connolly told Richards and Hitchens to mention that he is a free agent. He made sure to make him not forget to mention that he's a free agent after this fight. And I mean, I don't know if any of you guys know Keith Connolly a little bit closely. Keith Connolly, he's a guy that works with Belanga. He did, you know what I'm saying? Belanga's a guy that was, just with Eddie Hearn as well, and became a free agent. Now you got him fighting Shiraz coming up July 12th. Alicia Baumgardner, Connor Ben. He just signed Connor Ben recently. You know what I'm saying? He got a slew of fighters on his little roster, of guys that he's managing. And he's a guy that likes to try to maximize his fighters' money most definitely as much as possible. He tried to maximize their dollars. And the thing what Eddie Hearn was saying, like, one thing that caught my eye was like Eddie Hearn, like, man, I'd invested in Richardson and Vegas, New York in this fight, Orlando, and he didn't profit for me. You know what I mean? And remember, Richardson Hitchens is the guy that was signed with Floyd Mayweather. He was with TMT, but then he ended up getting out of his deal with TMT. And then he ended up going over there to sign with Eddie Hearn in Matchroom, and he's been over there ever since. And now the deal is up now, and Richardson, he's squaring away his business with Keith Connolly, a guy that's trying to maximize his dollar in every fight that he has now. You know what I mean? And the thing was, Eddie Hearn was like, he was trying to show respect to Keith Connolly, but then he was the one telling him like Keith Connolly's a snake. Like he's the guy that's, he's taking just as much of the percentage of the promoter. And the promoter is the guy and the one that's putting up the risk and putting up the money for the fighter and investing in the fighter while he just sit back and collects his his manager fee, which is I agree 100% wholeheartedly with with Eddie Hearn in that particular situation for sure, man. Because I'm like, damn, and Richardson looked like he don't really want to, kind of, leave his situation 100% with, with Eddie Hearn because he got respect for him because he know that he did help him get out of that situation with Floyd and everything, and help build his career onto what he's doing right now currently. But at the same time, they looking at that bag and they looking at the biggest fights as much as possible and trying to definitely up his profile. But the thing what Eddie Hearn said about it was too that was very telling was like, you invest in a fighter as a promoter, you build them along the way, build them brick by brick with each fight and everything. And we've been doing that with him, and we don't want it to be a situation where Africa ends up, going to take some fights that he probably shouldn't at the time, because he might not be on those. He pretty much said it in layman's terms that Africa may not be on some of these other guys' level, and they trying to maximize his money, and it may get ugly for him, and it may, drop his stock and everything, which is that was something that I agree with as well with Eddie Hearn for sure, man. And this was a conversation because me and my boy L Dub Boxing, man, salute to him, man. We had a little conversation just on the side. We be talking a little bit, and he was telling me, I was like, man, what do you think, Africa gonna do with this free agency? You know what I mean? And then all of this that I'm talking about right now, we started breaking down, talking about this whole situation, and it's just some crazy shit for real, man. It's definitely interesting to see what African does in this situation for real, because I think he got a decent situation with Eddie now. No, is Africa looking to sign a multi-fight deal and be with another company, or is he just want to be on some fight by fight shit similar to Berlanga right now? Because that's what Berlanga pretty much is on right now. And remember too, like I said, Teofimo Lopez, he's managed by Keith Connolly. So Keith Connolly is the guy that's kind of helping mend the situation with Teofimo Lopez for us, his situation with Top Rank. You know what I mean? Like, so Keith Connolly is definitely a significant figure in boxing, man, and you gotta pay attention to his movement, man. That man, he got some little motion over there for sure, man. For sure. My boy Teach, he said, whoever can keep you active, I say go to. Plus, if those fights make sense, boxers fight to make a living, and you gotta stay active. After, absolutely, bro. Gotta stay active. Go where the fights is, best for you. You know what I mean? And where, go with the company that has your best interest and they got the dates for you to fight and stay active. Because that's the main thing, like you said, Teach. These boxers have to stay active, man. I really suggest the fighters at least try to fight 3 times a year, but some of the stars in boxing, you're gonna get two probably at the max out of those guys. You know what I mean? And that's just where we at, where you remember back in the early 1940s. Salute to my boy CACS. I mean CS the box historian, man. Everybody subscribe to his channel, man. I was watching him the other day and he was talking about how some of these fighters was fighting 16 to 20 times a year back in like the early 30s and 40s. I was like, damn, like that shit crazy right there. Them boys was some dogs back in them days. It'd never be like that right now. But I mean, that's definitely crazy to think about, man, for sure, man. But I got Africa, man. Um What's next for him? What's the next fight for Africa? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, man. The Devin Haney fight, that looks like something possible. I'm not high on that fight, honestly. I wonder, I wish Africa would wait to see what happens with the winner between Puello and Matias. That's what I personally want. Notice Africa ain't mentioned Matias' name. Africa ain't mentioned that winner of Puello and Matias. He ain't mentioned that, man. I'll be paying attention, man, to everything. He mentioned fighting Teofimo Lopez. He didn't even mention Gary Anton Russell. He just mentioned T.O. and Devin. That's it. You know what I mean? So salute to Africa, man. Definitely great performance last night, man, for sure, man. And